The woman at the door was dressed like a pre-war Charmanese tart. A skin-tight cheongsam in pink and gold. Diamante strap-back heels, jet black hair in its high ponytail. Yes? May said, frowning. I'm the old man's daughter, eh? I'm Lynn. Old man? Victor Chieng, eh? I'm his daughter. Lynn pursed her red lips and peered around May into the darkness of the hall. The hall was part of the old rambling house built in 1903 by Victor's grandfather from the fortune it made in opium and canned pineapples. Victor's father had taken over the company and diversified into soft drinks and banking. Victor had inherited the company and this house in Katong and done nothing either before or since. He was May's uncle. Victor had led a spoiled playboy's life and quickly grew thick-waisted and greedy. The company was sold whilst it was still worth something. He had never married, and indeed why bother when his sister, May's mother, orphaned and widowed in quick succession, was there to take care of him for virtually nothing at all. May's mother had done her duty to her brother as her own mother had taught her, and May, when her mother grew sick, had cared for them both. A girl, her uncle said, was born only for one purpose, to fulfill the duties of filial piety. And May, whose example was a beloved mother, found no answer but obedience. Her mother had died 5 years ago, and now May, quietly graying into middle age, followed her duty. When I die, this house, all the fortune will be yours. He had said that same sentence every day for 5 years. Other than this daily mantra, if he talked to her at all, it was to complain about the food or his comfort. As time went by, he grew more and more bitter. Bitter at the infirmities of life and the inevitability of death. May could hear it in his tone when he muttered, "When I die," but she could have soon asked why the moon shone at night and not in the day as questioned the rightness of this. Lynn was standing, one hand on her hip, staring at me. May stood rooted to the spot, unable to comprehend what on earth the woman was saying. The old man's querulous voice whined from the inner room. Hey, girlie, what's going on?" Lynn suddenly pushed past May into the house. Before May could even react, Lynn had found the source of the voice in front sitting room. Father, is that you after so long?" Lynn threw herself at the feet of the old man sitting in the bath chair and burst into tears. Victor stared, but the figure of the pretty girl whose arms were now wrapped around his ancient legs and emitted a noisy and pungent fart of sheer surprise. Heated, seemingly, by the noxious soda wafting around her head, Lynn took up the ancient hand and kissed it. "I'm your daughter, Father! Look!" Lynn, on her knees, delved into a silk pouch and withdrew a paper. The old man took it and peered at it, pointlessly. "Eh!" he called to me. "Read!" He had become incontinent. His teeth had long since disappeared, his mind wandered around like a gypsy, but he was still sharp enough to believe it. May stepped forward and took the paper. It was a note written in a spidery hand and attached to a British birth certificate. "Dear Lynn," he said, "your father is Victor Chieng of Chatswood Cottage, Katong in Singapore." The birth certificate said, "Lynn Woods, born 22nd of May 1978. Mother, Margaret Woods of 12 Hunt Street, Swiss Cottage, London. Father, alone. The old man stared at Lynn, who had risen and pulled a low footstool to his side. He took up his hand again. My mother gave me this just before she died. I had to find you. There was a moment of complete silence as Victor eyed Lynn's heaving bosom. His mouth slacked, a line of drool forming on his chin. Then he seemed to rouse himself, quivering and shaking. His head went up and down. I remember! Yes! Victor cried. May frowned. What could he remember? His memories were the flaky pages of a moth-eaten book, brought out on any petulant whim. But the certificate seemed genuine. Then certainly mixed blood. This remarkable costume was some B-movie idea of how Chinese women dress 50 years out of date. Lynn rose and suddenly took May in her arms, grasping her to her bosom, turning her tightly clad backside, and a lump slither jumped onto the old man. He was so shocked she froze. Oh, how lovely to have found my family at last! Well, life was so beastly. It was just that. The room became enveloped in a smell so foul that Lynn abandoned May abruptly and put a hand to her nose. The old man had had an accident. Excitement did that to him. May called the old maid and wheeled him from the room. It took 2 of them to clean him. Neither women were permitted to show their disgust, and both remained impassive as they put on a fresh diaper and redressed him. When May returned, Lynn was looking closely at the cabinet of old silver plates and fake Ming vases in the cabinet. She turned and smiled at May. Poor father, is he all right? May nodded shyly. She did not know how to speak to this strange woman. If she truly was her uncle's daughter, she must be welcomed into this house. But such a decision was too difficult for her to make. She needed to speak to Joseph Tang, the family lawyer and son of the oldest friend of the Chen family. He was the man who took care of the finances, paying the household bills, and the allowance each month to keep the house in food and medical supplies. Joseph would know what to do. May went to the old phone and dialed a private mobile number which he had asked her to use. He answered immediately. Joseph? Yes, May? Is everything all right? May explained what had happened, and Joseph, as calmly as if this sort of thing happened every day, told her not to worry. He would be around directly. When Joseph arrived, May bowed to him, and Joseph smiled reassuringly. Like her, Joseph took care of his aged mother, and they understood each other. She had known Joseph all her life. They had grown up together, for the Tang house had ordered theirs when Katong was made up of great houses and large estates, and the beach was a mere stroll away. Now Chatsworth Cottage was the last of the mansions standing. They were surrounded on all sides by high-rise condominiums, and the beach was a highway. Joseph closed the door to her uncle's sitting room. Lynn had ordered the old maid to make tea and was sitting in the garden, unaffected by the storm she had unleashed on the household. When Joseph emerged, he was grim-faced. May, I'm sorry, but it seems your uncle recalls an affair with a young Englishwoman named Margaret. He looked out at the woman on the lawn. Despite appearances, he is still competent to make decisions. It seems he is ready to agree that this girl is his child. Her birth certificate seems genuine. He does not wish me to make further checks. My hands are tied. He wants her to stay in this house. May bowed her head. It is a blessing then, Joseph, for uncle to have a daughter. A blessing to have a child of his own who might marry and give him a grandson. Joseph looked faintly exasperated but said nothing. He went out to the garden and spoke to Lynn. She was smoking a cigarette, her legs crossed, one foot swinging loosely, the child's arm split to her thigh. When he returned, he spoke gravely to me. She wants to stay with her father, but she would like you to continue as you have, taking care of him as you do so well. She wishes only to bring him happiness in his declining years. May bowed her head. You do not have to agree, May, you know. Your mother left you money. You have the means to leave. May could hear Joseph's voice was filled with concern for an old friend. Leave, she thought. How? To go where? And what would become of Uncle? She felt a great fear and began to tremble. Joseph noticed them, put out his hand and touched hers. Well, we'll see how things go. Lynn took May's room at the front of the house. May went to the back bedroom next to the old maid. From that day, the house was filled with music. May and her old maid continued to care for Uncle, who liked nothing more than watching his daughter dance in a tight cheongsam. Invariably, there would be an accident. One day, Joseph came to the house. May was always so pleased to see Joseph, but he looked very serious. There was to be a new will. Uncle was leaving everything to Lynn. May could see that Joseph found it very hard to explain this to her. She bowed her head. It is natural that Uncle would want to take care of his daughter, she said, and Joseph shook his head. When he departed, May sensed a certain coldness. They went to a small room and put a handkerchief to her eyes. Within a short space of time after the signing of the will, Lynn assumed control of the house. She began ordering May to take care of her as well. The old maid was fired as an unnecessary expense, and May's tears at this parting was tempered only by the fact that Joseph had taken her in. May assumed the care of her uncle. Within a month, a young man, Geoffrey, had moved into the house as a gardener for the rambling grounds and driver for the ancient Rolls Royce. Uncle was delighted. The garden remained overgrown, but our trips were arranged. Short ones, of course, for Uncle's accidents generally meant an early return for drives around Singapore. He was very happy. Now and again he had taken to slapping May if he hurt when she moved him from his chair to his bed. Lynn was everything to him. Geoffrey was a constant companion. When May found Lynn and Geoffrey kissing and fondling in the sitting room, Lynn had risen and given May a sharp blow for her insolence and told her she'd better get ready to pack the bags. Lynn had run Joseph and screamed down the phone to him. The next day, Joseph called. He had been observing the mourning period for his mother who had died suddenly. May had seen him at the funeral where they had spoken, and Joseph had seemed distant, she thought. But she was very glad he was coming today. Victor was sleeping, and Joseph asked May and Lynn to come to the sitting room. May, he said, turning to her, things have become difficult for Lynn, and as this is her father's house, I feel I have to explain some important facts about his will. May felt a cold shock. Joseph had spoken as if they were strangers. She looked at him, but he turned away. May felt close to tears. Her hands began to tremble. Lynn, you should know that your uncle had left everything entirely to you. Out of compassion for May, the will stipulates that so long as May resides under his roof and cares for him, she is to receive a share of the fortune. And stared at Joseph as if it was a dog speaking in tongues. Then her eyes narrowed. So, if she leaves, then I get it all. Is that it? Yes, Joseph said. May looked at him, but his eyes were on Lynn. However, Joseph went on,
It is no easy matter to care for an old, infirm man. It is a very onerous task, and can only get worse. I urge you to consider carefully what you wish to do next. Of course, if you cannot stand to be around May any longer, you are quite within your rights to ask her to leave. May clutched her hands and felt a sharp needle in her heart. He, her oldest friend, had betrayed her. She could hardly breathe, and fearing to burst into tears, she rose and left the room. May watched Joseph leave, striding down the path without a backward glance. Lynn came into the room. "Pack your bags, Missy," Lynn said. "I want you out tomorrow." She did not sleep. The desperation of the situation filled her every thought. She wanted to speak to Joseph, but he seemed so cold, leaving without a word. As dawn broke, May took up a tiny suitcase. She went to see her uncle, but he was sleeping, his head lolling on the bed, drool flowing from his mouth. The owner of the room told May he needed a new diaper. She frowned in concern, but before she could do anything, Lynn appeared in the doorway. May fled, passion and ashamed. Lynn watched from the doorway as May made her way out of the grounds. She took a long drag on the cigarette and smiled. Joseph had explained there was not much money for living expenses. What did it matter? The property was worth millions. How long would she and Jeffrey have to change his diapers? When she got to the gate, May stopped. She had not thought what she could do next, and a cloud of despair enveloped her. "May?" May said, and she looked up. It was Joseph. She frowned at him angrily. For the first time in her life, she did not want to speak to him. She took up her bag and went through the gate. Joseph took her by the arm and she turned, her eyes wide with anger. "Don't be angry. Let me explain." He led her to the car and showed her a paper that her uncle had signed 2 years ago. The house and grounds were sold to a developer. He showed her the bank account with a very large sum. It was in her name. "It's all quite above board. Your uncle knew he needed money. I agreed to run his estate only if the money was in your name. He could have refused, but he did not. I will watch and make sure he's cared for until he dies. After that, the bulldozers will move in. There will be nothing in the will." He stared at Joseph. He smiled at her and took her hand. "May, it is time for us to live. You were blind to me, and I, God help me, was too shy. And both of us, I think you will agree, have fulfilled our duty of filial piety. I'm grateful to this Lynn. Without her, I would have never got you out of there. Forgive me if I hurt you." Joseph took a ring from his pocket. May looked at him in amazement. "Marry me? It's time. I've loved you for 30 years. May smiled. A great flood of tender emotions sweeping over her. She suddenly realized that she had loved Joseph just as long. All her life, this love had been hidden inside, wrapped away from the light by the tight bonds of family, duty, upbringing. She felt these cords unravel, and as he took up her hand and looked into her eyes, in one miraculous instant, she was free. "Yes," she laughed. "Oh, yes." Joseph put the ring on her finger and kissed her hand, then her cheek and her soft lips. They both felt long-buried desires quivering beneath their skin. He started the car. Inside the house, the querulous whining voice rose, calling,